Welcome back, everybody. Now, today we honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., some with reflection. Some people may do acts of service. But as senior pastor of the Rock Church, Miles McPherson, he's sharing another option. It's a third option. It's an option that goes beyond remembrance and works for change. So he's joining us this morning. Good morning to you, Pastor.
How are you doing today?
It's always good to see you. Glad to have you on today, especially. So let's talk about this. People want to remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and it's more than, posting his quotes on Instagram. I've seen that a lot this morning. But what can we all do to actually make a difference?
One of his famous quotes was, the most pressing question we all have to ask is, what are we doing for others? And I remember when I was 8 years old, he was killed, and I remember feeling, what can we do? And so fast forward here, 50-something years later, I wrote a book called The Third Option. And the first two options are us versus them. It's the divided culture that we live in. Everybody feels like they have to be on one side against the other. And the third option is that we honor what we have in common. So this book is designed to teach people how to do that, how to look past our blind spots, past unforgiveness. And then in addition, I developed a diversity training, what we call similarity training, because the third option is honoring what we have in common. And I propose that we're all more similar than different. We all want to have our opinions heard. We all want to live in safe neighborhoods. We all want to have family and love and pursue our goals. So this similarity training is for schools and for churches, for corporate world. We have a secular and faith-based version. And you can go to thethirdoptiontraining.com to get information. We piloted it with the DA's office here in San Diego a couple of years ago, and now we've been developing it. And soon we're going to have a K-8 curriculum as well.
And, to hear that you were 8 years old at the time of Dr. King's assassination, I mean, obviously he impacted your life in so many ways. Can you talk about that? I mean, we've seen, some change, obviously, since then, but there's more work that needs to be done, right?
Yeah, my family is very diverse. I have black, white, Chinese in my family. I grew up in a black neighborhood, went to school in a white neighborhood the first 8 years of my life. So I lived in the middle of tension all growing up. And I remember thinking he was going to help us. And then they killed him. And this has been gnawing at me all my life, because all the football teams I played on are diverse. And we got along and fought the same battle to win the games. And yet the world was divided. So started the church in 2000. And again, that was burning in my heart. How can I help somebody? How can I help somebody? And then a few years ago when I wrote the book, I feel like that is one of probably the biggest nerve in our country, the biggest stain in our country is the division that we have. And so my passion is to bring people together, especially people that are estranged, the furthest they can be estranged generationally. So I believe the third option offers that for a lot of people.
And, it seems like obviously right now, our city, our country, there's a lot of division. People may not be willing to understand each other and to realize why there's so many different emotions and where they're all coming from. What can we all do to really just, I think at the core of all of us, we're good people. So how do we show that? How do we come together in that way?
Well, I get the book, right, and really learn about how we can focus on our similarities. There was if we would all realize that we all want the same thing, we all want to have a loving family, we all want to pursue our goals, we all want our opinions to be heard, we all want to live in safe neighborhoods, we all love our food, and if we would focus on that. I was in a prison once talking, and I ended up having a conversation with a white supremacist. And we were like 2 inches from each other's face, not yelling, just having a conversation. And we didn't realize at the time, at least I didn't, that we were 99.5% genetically identical. And we wanted, most of the things we probably wanted were the same. He just looked at me inferior because of my color. But so many other things that we have in common. So if we can approach people with focusing on what we have in common, what we share, the similarities, then we can build on the things that are different, because the differences that we have are actually variations of the same thing, variations of culture, variations of experience, variations of family, and they can actually enhance our life if we give them a chance.
And you are such a well-known person here in San Diego, of course, as a former San Diego Charger and then the pastor at the Rock Church. What are you seeing in our community? Tell us, are you seeing a lot of this divisiveness? I mean, are you hearing about it at church? What are people coming to you with?
I spoke at church yesterday and I said there's a very strong spirit of division. I mean, in the church, outside the church. And it is, when I say scary, it's deep. It is intense. And I was telling people, look, when you are more focused on division versus unity, you're in idolatry. You're idolizing whatever your side is. Remember, we live in an us versus them culture. And us versus them means my argument is better than yours. I win, you have to lose. And the third option is all about how can we both win? But we have to come to the table realizing we all have blind spots. There's things we don't know. And if we can realize that we're all human, we all have equal humanity, and part of that humanity is getting along and have a relationship. If we can focus on that first. I was playing golf recently, and I was in a tournament, so we got paired up with people we didn't know. And a white couple rolled up, and they were in our group. And the guy was from Orange County, and the woman was from New York. And as soon as she said she was from New York, I'm from New York. That commonality made us bound together. And it wasn't that she was white, I wasn't. It wasn't that she was a woman, I wasn't. It was the fact that we were both from New York. And that's what brought us together. And that commonality is what we built our relationships on for the next 5 hours that we play golf. If we can meet people instead of focusing on what we different, let me go politics, Republican, Democrat. If we could focus on the fact that you're both human, you both have families, you both want to have a good career and a good life and then retire, and focus and build a relationship on that. Mm-hmm. And then you can expound on the other things. But if we don't have a relationship based on things we have in common, our country is going to disintegrate.
All right. Pastor Miles, thank you very much. On this Martin Luther King Jr. Day, it's so important to hear your message. We appreciate you being on this morning.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. He always makes me feel inspired, that's for sure.
If we could all focus on our commonalities, right? I mean, that's just so important. It goes such a long way in our society.
And isn't that such a simple thing? There was a lady from New York, he's from New York, and then they're buddies, and it can be that easy.
It's that simple, yes. It all starts with a conversation, right?